I had a deeply profound thought when I was 13 years old. Not a common time to have real brain busters, but I still think I was onto something. My dad taught me that love wasn't something you feel, but something you choose. A commitment. Every day you have to recommit yourself to your wife, girlfriend, whoever it is. But I realized at the same time that things you love, well, it can be like that too. It doesn't matter if it's an instrument you play, a sport, a movie you watch, you have to commit to it. That's when I decided my favorite band was System of a Down and my favorite movie was The Matrix. From here on out, forever. In hindsight, I probably just really loved the year 1999. It didn't matter though if I hadn't listened to the stylings of System of a Down for a while or if I hadn't watched the Wachowski twins' masterpiece in years, I still had an answer to that question if it ever came up. And it'd be way more interesting than when somebody asks you and you say, I don't know, I kind of like that Marvel movie that came out last week. I feel this way about video games too, and that's why when I finally got to play Dark and Darker for the second time, the first time I kind of bounced off, I decided to change my desktop wallpaper. I was really looking forward to the playtest coming up in April of 2023, because it's like right after my birthday, and so it's kind of like a birthday present from Ironmace. Thanks, guys. But then Nexon had to come in. Nexon is a big company, most famous for MapleStory, a game I played when I was even younger than the recent story I just told, and they are some kind of a games company that decided that instead of making video games, they've decided they should just patent troll and get after the people who used to work for them and now work for a different company. Their claims are that assets were stolen and that private information and trade secrets were taken away, and also Dark and Darker is breaking some kind of rules on the Steam store, and so they've been taken off there as well. When I first heard about this stuff, I was really worried. I was like, is there something to this? Did they really mess up? If they messed up, then they've got to pay for it. Maybe these lawsuits are not completely frivolous. But no, turns out they are entirely frivolous, thanks to a lot of posts coming from Ironmace directly on their Discord and maybe Twitter. I saw it on Discord personally. They went through every single claim that had been made by Nexon and completely dismantled them, took them apart piece by piece, starting with the asset claims. Nexon claimed that Dark and Darker has assets with the exact same names as those in a project that they were working on in Nexon called P3. Well, Ironmace turned around and showed the receipts, which include thousands of files all purchased legally from the Unreal Asset Store, a place where you can buy assets to make your development of games quicker and easier than modeling the assets yourself. Turns out, developers used the Unreal Store both at Nexon and now at Ironmace. Other file names were similar, of course. Things like Light Attack, Strong Attack, Small Magic Attack, Medium Magic Attack, and Large Magic Attack. Turns out things that are super generic, so much so that, well, ChatGPT could come up with it. The next thing that Ironmace did was show how utterly generic their game really is. It's really hard to claim that you have copyright ownership over things like delving into a dungeon, finding loot, fighting skeletons and zombies, and buying equipment and provisions from NPC shopkeepers. These are established tropes and themes in so many video games that it'd be impossible to count. And yet Nexon apparently believes that you need some kind of trade secrets in order to come up with this stuff. To prove this isn't the case, Ironmace did something a little bit interesting. They went to ChatGPT and they asked ChatGPT to make a description of a video game in which you would do this sort of thing. And it basically created the game from the ground up in text form, explaining that you would go into dungeons, you'd get loot, you'd fight against enemies, both players and NPCs alike, and then you would go and shop at the shopkeepers and go back into the dungeons, etc., etc. So it basically explained Dark and Darker pretty much perfectly, with very few little changes here and there. There was also the issue of an ex-employee having files being used on private servers. Well, it turns out they've got receipts for that too. This employee has been being hounded and come after by Nexon for a while, they've alleged, and although multiple searches and seizures have taken place, no wrongdoing has been found as far as we know. This, in my opinion, comes down to a large developer seeing a small developer being successful, not being able to compete on their own merit, and instead trying to quash the small developer with legal troubles instead. Some games companies have good public opinions, some games companies have bad public opinions. I'm pretty sure Nexon had no opinion at all for most people, which could be seen as good or bad, I guess, but now, well, they're going to have a pretty bad opinion to deal with for quite some time. Any public trust they had has been eroded and will not return. It seems that Ironmace has the receipts, is in extremely good hands, and hopefully lawyers will be able to settle this quickly and efficiently and get the game back into the state it should be, which is being playtested by its loving fans and community. Myself included, I'd love to get back in there. I really want to spend more time with Fighter on the next playtest, so let's get back into it as soon as possible. I was really worried when I first heard this news, and honestly, seeing everything come out of Ironmace now, seeing how frivolous this whole thing is, I'm glad that I put my trust in them, my faith in them as a new dev, and I'm glad to have so far not been proven wrong to do so. This is my favorite video game of all time, of course, for now. So I can't wait to see it come back. This has been Graybeard. If you enjoyed the video, hit like, hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time.